Hello chaps, I was asked what the little tube on the printed board was. It's an EM87, the old Magic Eye, you know. It's well, this is a silly, well not silly, but a gimmicky idea in this case, because I was brought up with Magic Eye shadow cast indicators on tape recorder levels and various other pieces of equipment. But this is totally different technology to what's on here, so it's a bit like the plonkers who think they've reinvented the wheel with valve radios, you know, valve amplifiers. As long as they can see a bit of glass sticking up that glows, you know, it's got to be wonderful sound. Anyway, but this thing's a bit silly because it's run off 12 volts, and of course screen volts and anode volts, so this is 100 or so, couple hundred. So it's obviously a step up multi-breaker of some description, but you know, it's a bit silly. Anyway, it's an audio level indicator. Pardon me, still got a rock cold. But I never got round to it. Well, I did connect it up. I used it on some audio visual stuff I was messing around with, and it was a gimmick. Anyway, they're available on www.mells.com. Now that's a link for you if you want to find out who they are. I got it from China or Japan or something. The food quid, I think. Anyway, that's the old Magic Eye sort of things. As I say, I used to have them in early radios for peeking in stations and this sort of thing. And I've got another type, of course, it's the butterfly type. I've got one on this Douglas old Taylor capacitor resistance bridge out from the shed, full of cobwebs. I haven't used it for a while, but let's see if I can zoom in a bit better. Oh well, that's not too good in focus, is it? It wants to be let's prop that under there. Oh, that's better. That'll do. Right, we'll plug it in. We switched on. Yeah. Go on to capacitor. Take one of these. What is it? 22 microfarads. Quarter of this. Hang back a wee bit. I'll come in again. No, it won't come back. Oh, that'll have to do. That'll have to do. Right, negative that end. I mean, this is old hat by today's standards, and some of you may be poo-pooing it and blah blah. I don't care. I know what I'd soon use. There's something aesthetically pleasing about using equipment like this. Anyway, this uses the butterfly shadow mask tube. Can I get in closer? Probably not going to focus. This is not the best camera, but never mind. But let's alter that factor. There we go. You can see you peak to that point, and then you take a reading, and it's 2.2 microfarads, which is what the pointer said. So, and it does resistance as well. It's simply a Winston bridge with a little tube to display. They have quite advantages over meters. They respond a lot faster, and you haven't got to overcome the inertia of a meter needle, and you haven't got to dampen it, and so forth. They respond very, very quickly. Hence they were used for level monitors and for other various use. I've got one on a signal generator, but it's too big to bring in this shed. But old stuff like this is a Taylor 110B. It's got quite a range, and as I use all surplus components and salvage stuff, it's very handy to check out old capacitors, especially electrolytics. which tend to dry out and go leaky. Which leads me on to this sort of old equipment. And this I saw the other day, another old Heathkit signal gen, again old equipment. If you come across this in boot sales, jug sales, lofts, wherever, be very, very wary. Do not think you can run home and plug them in. In fact, that's the worst thing you can do. If you find a lovely old 1930s or 40s radio at a boot sale and someone says, oh yeah, it works fine, run away. Just run away. You never plug these things in, ever. They've been standing for far too long. They could be dangerous, but I'm not worried about you getting a shock. I'm more concerned at the equipment being destroyed. But you get capacitors that leak, go leaky, pass currents they shouldn't, and but they can be so easily recovered. Often they can be rejuvenated. If you've got an old radio and the bloke says, no, I don't know anything about it, I don't know how to try it, and it hasn't got a plug on, that's probably a better bet. And just initially have a quick look, see if it's no bare wires or anything nasty, and check that the voltage settings is the same as your current voltage supply. Must never be lower, of course. And put a bulb in series with it. Start off with, say, a 15 watt bulb in series with one lead and plug it in and leave it for an hour or two. The radio won't work, we just leave it, and the bulb may not glow, like, you know, slightly dim. After a few hours, come back and put a 20 watt bulb in, or increase it, 25 watt bulb, and the bulb should glow, not full brightness, but it'll be a bit more. Leave it for another few more hours, come back, put a 60 watt bulb in, then come back and put a 100 watt bulb in, by which time, 1 second, oh sorry about that guys, I got called away, but for a very good reason. Isn't that marvellous? Anyway, back to the old equipment. You got up to a 100 watt bulb at least. The radio by this time should be making some noises, and perhaps the dial lights may just start to glow, and but it may not work perfectly okay, but keep your eyes open, there's no smells, smoke. After which time, very carefully, you can put it on full mains. And by going through that little palaver, which, well, it takes time, but it's very, very little effort, you've saved yourself from destroying a piece of equipment that, if you hadn't have done that, would probably be a complete scrapper. So, you've been warned. Anyway, I'm going to have a cup of tea. When it comes to old equipment, this is some of my old radio gear. This is a Kenwood 530 SP valve PA output, which I quite like. It's my era, but if you're not familiar with plate and load techniques, you've got to get a few grey hairs before you tackle one of these. Failure to do so, you can destroy it. How quickly can you destroy it? 30-40 seconds. And they're getting harder and harder to come by. Here we have a solid state HF radio. What's this one? Ah, it's a Yaesu 707. It's an early solid state. If you can come across these, here we've got a power supply. These were considered portable, by the way. But they haven't got top man. But they're pretty much bomb-proof. If you can get one of these that's going okay, or come across one of these at a radio rally, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. People who've had them, that may not be the set they use, because it hasn't got all the bells and the whistles, but it's a good old faithful, and you gotta be pretty stupid to muck this one up. But why have I come on to radio gear? Well, it was just some old equipment I wanted to discuss about cleaning and and reviving old radios, test gear, whatever. Be very careful what you use to clean them with. I've seen people remove transfers, you know, by using petrol and other stupid things. Test the back of the radio or underneath, but I recommend an anti-static foaming cleaner. This is used throughout the radio TV trade. There's many manufacturers, I'm not necessarily be this one, but any anti-static foaming cleaner. You can use it on computers and stuff as well, okay? You spray it all over, not into the innards of course, but you spray it all over and you let it foam, it's a white foam, and then you get a rag. When the foam's starting to die down and the bubbles start to break, go over with a rag and clean it up, and it'll leave a nice clean decent finish. And then when it comes to old radios, use a good quality polish on the cabinets. If I can find out what that is, I'll let you know. So much for sort of doing the restoring bit, but you may not be interested in the amateur radio side. I've got a fluorescent light and I've only got 2 foot of wire there. Anyway, lovely piece of kit. Let's turn that down. I don't poo-poo all modern sort of stuff. I bought this when I was keen on amateur radio. I bought this little aerial analyzer. It's made by Autech Research. It comes from the States, and you can get things cheap over there, but it cost me 70 odd quid to get this. And waiting for it took about 3 weeks to come, and it's very handy for working out impedances and such things and resonant frequencies of aerials, because I like making my own. And this is a great little tool because it's portable, it's self-contained, has its own battery. And I looked up on the internet after I ordered it on a forum, and it was slagged off something terrible. 95% of everyone said it was a load of old crap. Terrible company to deal with. Total rubbish. Some people had took it apart and said half the components weren't soldered in, or it's a load of old rubbish. But I've had it for ages. What are we on? 7.1. Try another band. That'll do.
I'm going to have to try and get outside and clear the garden a little bit before the weather turns wet and windy. So with that, I'll put it back to the funny leader, and then hopefully we'll catch up with you again a little bit further down. So
7.16. There we go. Spot on. Okay, I just moved it, but it's 3 decimal places, and it works beautifully. And of all the bad reports, now and again you got one good one who said they were wonderful, best they've ever had. And I thought, this is somewhat strange. Anyway, I got mine, and it came, and I've nothing to do with the firm. It came out the box and it worked beautifully. Anyway, looking into this a little bit further, it turns out that when they first produced these, they were outsourced. They sent them out for people to build and send back. Well, of course, there was no quality control. So once they started getting bad reports, and it's a strange thing, this forum business, where people say they like this or don't like that. Some people are never satisfied, but I, for one, and You take your chance whether you get the good one. I for one think that's the best 70 quid I've ever spent. Saved me an awful lot of time. And it came with a simple instruction sheet, but it was in a form I could understand, and got straight to the point. So simple easily does it. Anyway, enough of the promoting that. So we've covered some old equipment and how best to look after it. I've got loads of this stuff, but so reluctant to pass it on. Perhaps I better leave that discussion there. Okay, thanks for watching. If you've switched off, I'm talking to myself. Anyway, just finally, this is an aerial tuner unit made by Kenwood. I'm always praising the virtues of old gear, old equipment, as opposed to modern stuff. And quite a lot of youngsters defend the modern stuff. They're into all this computer and digital doodah and everything. And I've had many a discussion about the merits of this fantastic old gear, and you know, they just don't appreciate. You know, they poo-poo it and move on to modern idea. They talk about computer, software-driven radio. You know, it's all computers, and I just don't get my point across. And I know which I'd rather have, and I've been on about it for many a time, but you know, each to their own. Anyway, just to sort of finally, and I've just grabbed this piece of equipment this morning, and I've taken the screws out of the case. We're dealing with RF frequencies here, so you probably know what I'm on about. And if I take the top off, spin that around and zoom in, let's see if I can get the camera right. Just look at the quality of that piece of equipment. Would you find that today? Would you? Hell. On that point, I rest my case.